Today we will be talking to an Army veteran from the Battle of Fort Sumter. This battle marked the beginning of the Civil War. Let's hear an account from one soldier in particular who experienced firsthand the chaos that ensued that fateful day. Please join me in welcoming Private James Harrison. Thank you. Private Harrison, what was the mood like at Fort Sumter in the days leading up to the attack? Was this firing expected or out of the blue? It sounded like all you needed was resources, but was there an ulterior motive that we aren't aware about? Fort Sumter wasn't tense, but we could tell that we weren't wanted there. I mean, we were Union soldiers in the first state that had seceded from the Union. They didn't want us there. They saw us as an occupying force and a threat, and quite frankly, we didn't want to be there either. I would much rather be up north with my family and my friends in the safety and comfort of my own home. I remember one of the men had heard a rumor of possible conflict, but nobody expected the Confederates to attack us. We needed food and supplies. We were completely surrounded by people unwilling to help us, so President Lincoln tried to caution them that supplies were on their way and would be arriving at Fort Sumter, and that we were not trying to start a war, that we were not trying to start an armed conflict or pick up anything that they had left. This fort was meant to remain neutral and serve as a reminder of what the Union had still in the Confederacy. Unfortunately, the CSA did see us as an occupying force, so they attacked and they demanded surrender. Can you describe to me that feeling when you were first notified of the attack? How did you and the other soldiers prepare, or did you even prepare at all? I was not the first to be informed of the situation. In fact, one of the younger recruits was the first to see it, and he was completely caught off guard. There was so much fear and confusion at the time. We were really shocked that they actually opened fire. It did not seem real to us. But when those first shells hit, and I lost my brother. I'm sorry. It all just became so real. The fort was almost alive. People were trying to remember their jobs, their tasks, their duties, but the artillery fire, everything happening, it was just so chaotic that by the end, we were all just trying to survive. Defending the fort obviously took priority, but the Confederates were too strong and had the element of surprise on their side. We never stood a chance. I understand. Private, did you think that this situation would escalate to a full-blown civil war? No, honestly, at the time, I didn't think that this would escalate to war. The idea of a full-scale civil war between people of the same country, it seemed impossible. I figured the president and his cabinet would handle the situation, and believe me, President Lincoln and his Secretary of War tried, but the South was not backing down. It became hard to deny the situation, and ultimately it did lead to war. And I don't think anybody was quite expecting it to happen as quickly as it did. How was it in the aftermath of this firing at Fort Sumter? Did you lose hope when you were notified and briefed that you would be surrendering the fort? And what happened to all of you and the soldiers? Yeah, the aftermath was just as much of a shock as the beginning of this firing was. We had tried and held out as long as possible, but the damage had already been done and we were surrounded. There was a huge sense of defeat. Several of us were wounded and two of us didn't make it home. One of them being my brother. But most of us in the end were allowed to leave. The Confederates did not take many prisoners. I do remember that. They wanted the Union to know what had occurred and who had won. Some of us, after the fact, went home and stayed with families. They made conscious decisions that being there for them instead of being out in the war was a better solution, but most of us ended up re-enlisting and working alongside many great generals such as Sherman and other people like Grant. Finally, Private, how did the events of Fort Sumter make you feel about being in the military? Did your outlook on life change? Did you reevaluate what you were doing, what your job was? Or did you continue on knowing that it was for the greater good? I think we all had a different understanding of what we were fighting for. Some of us believed we were fighting for freedom. Some of us believed we were fighting for the Union and preserving the Union that we had worked so hard for after the Revolution. but we didn't realize the weight of this conflict at the time. It took time and effort to realize what truly was happening. And we definitely didn't realize that our lives would change for the next few years. If you would have told me that after this battle that it would have been a long drawn out war, I would have said no. Honestly, after the Confederates had such a crazy win, I did not think that the Union had a chance. I guess we figured the situation would be quick. Like I said, I thought that the Confederates had it, but many of my soldiers, many of my men figured that we had it from the get-go. I think what really pushed us over the edge, though, was knowing that we didn't really have a choice. We knew that victory was absolutely necessary, and that pushed us and united us to the very end with everything that happened. Interesting outlook, Private. Thank you so much for your time. I believe that's all the questions we have for you. Thank you so much for being here. We are so